Yeah, so, okay. All right, so here we are. Never mind the college talk. We're gonna get going. Okay, so I have someone who's emailing saying they can't get in, so.
Craig, David, Gail, Patrick, and Paul are all on the line.
Are we discussing regulation or starting right in with the continuing ed
No,
board meeting?
No, regulations are part of the board meeting today. We are reviewing 3.09, so we're going right into the continuing ed committee meeting.
Okay, I'll put that up.
Yep, continuing ed. Just one second. I have someone emailing me that they can't get in, so I'll do that and we can get started in 1 second, David. Let's see. Okay. David, I'm ready for you to call the meeting to order whenever you.
Do we have a quorum?
Well, that's debatable. Let's see. We've got you and Gail and Paul and Craig,
Kurt
and Patrick. Quorum is a simple majority of the 11 members, so we need 6 people on the line. And we've got that.
We have Gail, Kirk, David, Craig, Patrick, Paul.
Yep, we have 6. So we're all set, David.
Okay, I'm calling the continuing ed meeting to order at 12:07. Who else is on the call line, Chris?
Let's see. For staff, we have, or for panelists, we have myself, Beverly, Craig, Gail, Kirk, Patrick, and Paul. For attendees, we have Bill Gibbons, Emily Wasmer, Nancy Fitzpatrick, Una Bouchard, Saskia Oosting, Veronica O'Donnell, Wendy Rundle, and William Mitchell.
Okay, thanks. So for the continuing ed meeting, there was a note here, virtual draft meetings. Any update?
Actually, the minutes for January, February, and March are in the process of being transcribed. They were received in April. So I'm also consulting with the Attorney General's office about what we need to post, because it's just going to be a monumental task to put all 2 years worth of minutes into the correct format. So I've consulted with the AG's office, and I haven't heard back yet on what to do about it and what we absolutely must post on the website. But that's the next project as soon as I hear from them. So I should have an answer on all the minutes by the May 17th meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And then the next item, approve continuing education courses and conferences as of April 2022 under old business.
Yes, that's me. And shout out to Una Bouchard, who is on the line. Una helped me get the website listing. So as of, I believe, last Friday, the website has been updated up through April 1st, 2022. I'm asking all continuing ed providers to please check their listings and make sure that, everything is correct, and to email me if they see things that are not correct. But everything up through the March 8th meeting should be posted on the LSP board website.
Okay. So for new business, we have 7 course approval requests. For the list of people to go through on the roll call, I have Kirk, Patrick, Craig, Gail, Paul, and me. Am I missing anyone? Nope. The first request is from the LSPA, PFAS, live webinar, and then a online on-demand option for 1.5 technical credits next month. I make a motion to approve.
Actually, they didn't ask for a live webinar. I'm sorry, an online version. They said they're going to rework the webinar for on demand. So that would mean they would have to resubmit.
It's the same language they've used every month for these requests for both webinar and online on demand.
And I know that, and that was, in my view, incorrect, because if they're going to rework a course, because on live webinars, and as you know, of course, are different from online. And I do not think we should be approving courses online until they're submitted as such. I know what you're saying, that we have been doing it, but I took a closer look at this, and, the board members can weigh in.
I think that's a change from the past, but I'm not able to pull up the request and compare it to old ones. So I guess right now we just approve it as a webinar.
Yeah, well, Chris can put it up on the screen. I mean, he can, and I'm on actually page 3. But I took a closer look at it, and it says, once the live webinar has been held, the LSPA may rework the webinar into the LSPA's on-demand online format. And if that's what they've been saying, and I took a closer look at this because we've been doing it, I don't think they're the same thing.
Wendy Rundle just said, we have been using this language for 2 years, and the LSP board has approved many of these.
I understand, but some of them, but not all of them, and I think it's been incorrect. I know that the board has, not all of them have been approved in that way, but I think that we have established through the draft regs and before implementation of the draft regs that on demand is different from a live webinar.
Wendy just posted, reworked means reformat. The course materials stay the same, and instead of polling questions, we have an assessment of learning and other formatting changes that we state.
Yeah, in the request, they provide all the rules on how they're going to do the online on-demand class, and they've always done that. And I don't think it needs to say we will. I think it's fine for them to say we may, and that's what they've been doing for all the previous approvals. So what do other people on the board think?
During the pandemic, but we require other continuing ed providers to make that distinction.
And they do in the same submittal, the same way that these requests come in from the LSPA. They also outline how they're going to have it on as an on-demand course.
Yeah, but that's not done here. They said they may rework it, and we have asked NMOA and others to submit courses for reapproval, and also because it's substantively different. I'm sorry, and the LSPA has in fact done that.
Yeah, Wendy just said, if the LSP board wants to write out their requirements, we will follow them. There are no written rules that state this or provide any guidance to the provider.
It's Paul here. I'm curious, and obviously I'm new to this process, but what's the fundamental difference between the live webinar versus the on demand? I mean, it's the same content, right? There's a little logistics and demonstrating, the learning and doing the quizzes in the middle of the live webinar. But is there a fundamental difference in the content?
No, not at all. And the only difference is the live webinar has polling questions to keep track of attendance, and then the online on-demand course has questions at the end as an assessment of learning to check for attendance. And their requests have always outlined how they're going to do that for a live webinar and how they're going to do it for a potential on-demand online course in the future, and we've always approved them that way.
Wendy just stated it has to be reformatted in order for us to offer it on demand. There is no way to magically turn a live webinar an on-demand course. We have been doing this for 2 years with no written guidance from the LSP board on what you want and how to proceed. The rules can't change midstream.
I disagree with. Go ahead, Gail. Go ahead.
It seems to me that the request, if I'm understanding what David's saying, and I don't have it up on my screen right this second, but what I understand David is saying is that the request actually says, if it is an on-demand course, we will do the following things. So it's already stated that they're going to do it correctly. Is that correct? Did I understand you correctly?
Yes, that's how it's always been written.
Right, and so what I'm saying is then they are giving the information on how they will do it correctly in this request.
And Beverly has a different interpretation of it that she has voiced. I've made a motion. Is there a second?
I just want to, before you take a roll call vote, I want to make sure that, and Wendy, I'll forward the guidance that I have. I believe I've sent it to you, but if I haven't, I will. And I'm making a note of that to send the guidance that I forwarded to all continuing ed providers who have asked about the difference between online and on demand. But if we're going to do this, we're going to do it for everybody. So I'll just make sure going forward, if that's the vote that you take, that the same thing will apply to everyone who applies for a live webinar, that they can also include information on demand and have the courses contemporaneously approved that way.
Okay, then that seems like a solution. And for this time, we can approve it as we have in the past for 2 years.
Yep, absolutely.
I second the motion to approve.
I'm looking at the request. Is there any comments from the board or the public?
So this is Paul here. So just to be clear, is there a set of criteria for doing live versus the on demand, and LSPA is going to meet both, right? Whichever format it's going to meet.
Yes. And Paul, I'll make sure I copy the board members so that you will have it too when I send it to Wendy on the distinctions between the two. Yeah. It's also in the it's also in the regs that we're going to review today, 3.09.
Great.
When that happens, does this go to a different course number when it goes from webinar to an online?
Well, see, that's the thing, because in some instances, when continuing ed providers have submitted a course for live webinar and subsequently said, we want to take this on demand, it's given a designation of an a letter, it's given a letter designation so that it's distinguished.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm doing a roll call on the course approval. A yes is approving it. Kirk?
Yes. Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
David, I've been here, Kathy Campbell.
Hey,
I'm a
Kathy.
yes. I didn't want to interfere, but I've heard the whole discussion.
Great.
David,
Glad
this
you're
Millie,
with
I
us.
just entered a discussion, but I cannot vote because I just entered a meeting.
Okay, well, I've added you to, so don't go away. The second course request is another LSPA offering 3 technical credits, a live webinar, and a request that they may do it as an online on-demand course. I make a motion to approve it.
I second.
Any discussion from the board or public?
Wendy just posted, let's see, there are 3 things. I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep up with everything.
Yep. David, can I ask you to, when you call out for the roll call vote, make sure that you say the name of the course, just for the sake of having a record?
Sure.
So Wendy said the LSPA understands the difference between live webinar and on demand. We have never received any written guidance on this from the LSP board. And then she then stated draft regs are not approved enforced regs.
That's true. She's absolutely right. I'll send the guidance that I crafted based on information from the board members at the meeting. And we know that the regs haven't been promulgated, so of course they're not enforceable. But we have a policy, a protocol that we follow. It's not codified in the regs yet. She's right. Wendy's right.
Going through the roll call, approving course approval request number 2 on today's agenda. Kirk?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Kathy?
Yes.
And Millie?
I need to abstain because I didn't listen to the conversation.
Okay, the third approval request is also from the LSPA. 1 technical credit, live webinar, and potential future online on-demand course. I make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Any discussion from the board or public? Go through the roll call to approve course approval request number 3 on today's agenda. Kirk?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
David is yes. And Kathy?
Yes.
Millie?
Yes.
Okay. The fourth request is from the LSPA, a 1 technical credit offering that took place this month. Oh, last month, I think. Looking for approval as a webinar and potentially a future online on-demand course. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion from the public or the board? Going through the roll call to approve course request number 4 on today's agenda. Kirk,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
David is yes, Kathy,
Yes.
and Millie.
Yes.
Great. The next course request is the Patel Conference next month. 1 technical credit for each hour of workshops. In the program, I didn't see anything listed as workshops, only short courses. So I assume that's what they're referring to, and a half credit for each hour of attendance. And I only saw the program. Was there an actual request from the conference organizers telling how they're going to keep track of attendance and things like that?
I have to check and see. I believe that all I had was the Palm Springs program that was included in the packet. I don't think that, I want to make sure, I don't think that they sent anything else.
I mean, is that adequate? I mean, other conferences, don't they also provide information on how they're going to keep track of attendance and things like that? Not just send the program?
We've required it, buddy.
Yes, we require it.
Other providers write great letters and provide all requested information. I think just sending us a program is not adequate.
Okay, let me just make sure. And why don't you take on the Pennsylvania Council courses while I look this up, David, and we can come back to it, table it momentarily. I'm looking it up now.
Thank you. So the next one is Pennsylvania Council of Professional Geologists, a 5 technical credit course this month, and it's in person with them maintaining records of attendance, not a webinar. I make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Any discussion from the board or public? I'll go through the roll call. A yes is approving course request number 6 on today's agenda. Kirk?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
I'm a yes. And Kathy?
Yes.
And Millie?
Yes.
Great. And then another one from the same organization, 6.75 technical credits for a course that took place in March, also in person, maintaining records of attendance. I make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Any discussion from the public or board? Roll calls approving course request number 7 on today's agenda. Kirk?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Kathy
Yes.
and Millie?
Yes.
Great. And then just going back to the Patel request, if we don't have anything from them, we could. Sorry.
I have the information, David. What they indicated in the email, the forwarding email, is that and I'm quoting, we require a sign-in, sign-out sheet for those attendees that wish to attend, to receive credit for attendance. They must sign in and out each time they arrive and leave the conference. Only those days that have completed information are counted toward their attendance hours.
Okay, well, I make a motion to approve it as proposed with short courses substituting for workshops.
Second.
Any discussion from the board or the public? We'll go through the roll call. A yes is approving course request, conference request number 5 on today's agenda. Kirk,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
I'm a yes, Kathy,
Yes.
and Millie.
Yes.
That's it. Our next meeting will be in May on the 17th, and I guess it's virtual. I don't know what the latest is with DEP offices, and I'm calling this meeting.
Yeah, hold on. I have an announcement, and the offices are still closed. I wanted to announce a very important upcoming course, DEP credits, updates on BWSC's Natural Resource Damages Program. It's formally designated course number 1683A. It will be presented on May 24th, 2022 at the Western Mass LSPA membership meeting at the Hilton Garden Inn in Springfield, Mass. from 5:30 to 7:05 p.m. And that course was approved for 1 DEP regulatory credit.
Great. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I'm calling the continuing ed committee meeting to an end at 12:31.
Okay, if you just give me a minute, I'll be ready. Kurt, you're going to conduct the professional conduct committee meeting. Jamie is not here, obviously, sorry. So if I can just have a second, I'll be ready.
Scroll down a little. There we go.
Okay, Kurt, whenever you're ready, I'm all set.
We're ready. Okay, call to order, 12:32. Virtual draft minutes. Any questions?
Nope, the draft minutes, as I announced during continuing ed, I am in consultation with the Attorney General's office about the exact format to get posted on the website. I want to make that my next project. Also, the minutes for January through March are being transcribed as of April 2022.
Okay.
I hope to have a response in May about what we're going to do about the minutes, because I'm very concerned about getting them all posted and forwarding them to people who have entities and people who have made public records requests. So that's the report on that.
Millie, Millie, I'm sorry. I have a question on that point. These meeting minutes, they'll need to be reviewed and approved by the board, though, yes?
I'm not sure, Millie. That's one of my questions, because if we have a transcript, if we have an audio-visual recording and we post those online, there's no review. I mean, they are what they are. And I don't know whether or not I can edit those audio-visual. I have all these questions. This is why I'm consulting with the Attorney General's office, because it's above my pay grade to make these decisions during a pandemic when we're under executive order in part, and when we're not, and some parts of the open meeting law are in effect and some are still under executive order. So I don't know, to answer your question, what I'm going to have to do, what the Attorney General's office is going to require me to do. So
Any
I don't know if
timeline?
you're going to.
Yep, and any timeline provided to you by the AGOs?
I haven't spoken with them yet. I emailed them a couple of weeks ago, I believe. So
Oh,
I hope to have a report at the May 17th meeting. It's at the top of my list.
got it. It's just that I took it to mean in consultation that there was a first pass discussion. Thank you.
I'm sorry, that there was a what? I didn't hear you. That you took
I
it to mean
interpreted
that there was.
already consultation, meaning conversation underway. So thank you.
Well, it's underway in the sense that I emailed them with my concerns, but no, I don't have follow-up. I don't.
Okay, we'll go right into
You're
the
welcome.
status of the CRTs.
Yep. And I have 05C07 will be discussed in executive session today. I'm only giving the cases that I have reports for. I have been able to move some of them along. I'm going to start with 18C02. I'm sorry, 18C01. We have in that case, the CRT has interviewed the LSP. We have a draft of the CRT report. I am hoping to have that draft formatted and presented to the board before the end of the fiscal year, which would be our June 2022 meeting. So I need to schedule a CRT meeting, and we need to finalize the draft of the CRT report. 18C02, we have interviewed the LSP, and again, I hope to have a draft of the CRT report before the end of the fiscal year. In 18C02, I have to say that part of the delay in that case, clearly not all of it, but part of the delay was the CRT weighed whether or not we were going to immediately suspend the LSP's license based on the evidence before us, and we decided not to go that route. So we shifted gears. We drafted questions. We interviewed the LSP, and we're in the process of editing the CRT report. And the same thing stands for 18C02. The LSP has been interviewed, and unlike 18C01, we don't yet have a draft report, but I'm going to work on it so that we can present it before the end of the fiscal year. 20C01 and 20C02 are instances of violations of professional conduct that arise out of the same set of operative facts, and you probably heard me very often talk about them with the same information. In those two cases, the LSPs have been interviewed. They have, as have other witnesses. At the March 8th meeting, I asked for someone to volunteer to sit on the CRT because I think the board agreed that we would form a CRT for this case. Gail volunteered, and so did Greg. Unfortunately, Greg missed today's meeting, but I do think I haven't had anyone else volunteer, a non-recused member. So I think I'm going to call Greg and give him the bad news that his volunteer ism has been accepted. So we're going to form a CRT for those two cases.
And you'll send us the information once Greg is really notified?
Yep. I'm going to send everything that I have. Again, I've interviewed both of the LSPs in those cases. I have also interviewed all of the percipient witnesses in those cases. So I'll put together all this information once I give Greg the bad news, Gail, and we can start working on next steps.
Okay, because we may want to interview them too, Beverly. We haven't had the chance to interview them, so.
Yep, you're only going to get my interview notes from all the witnesses and the LSPs. And the LSPs have, in those two cases, sent statements. I did get statements from them in addition to conducting formal interviews where I posed questions and they responded. But they have given me written responses as well. So I'll put all that information together and send it out as a packet to those CRTs.
Okay, sounds good.
Complaint number 21 CO2. I've made progress on that complaint as well. I have to say that it's a massive file, 5.5 inches thick, and it's going to have to be redacted. The good news is I've been in touch with the complainant. The entire complaint with attachments, all 5.5 inches, was forwarded to the LSP, who has until May 16th, 2022 to respond. And thus far, I haven't received a request for an extension, but it's a lot of documentation in this complaint. It's not going to be screened out by the board. I do believe it's going to go forward into the investigatory stage under 7.04. So we will be looking for volunteers to sit on that CRT. But until we receive the LSP's response to the complaint, we're on hold with the appointment of a CRT. And that's everything I had.
Question, the 20 CO1, there was a violation of what nature?
I'm sorry, you're talking about 21 CO1?
20 CO1.
20 CO1 and 20 CO2, again, arise out of the same set of operative facts. And I'm repeating myself, Kurt, because I don't know how to explain the facts of this without giving away the identity of the LSPs, but let me just see if I can give you some information on the alleged violations. They're in the nature of professional responsibility under 4.03. And possibly 4.04, conflict of interest.
Okay.
Is that helpful?
Yes.
Okay.
Wendy just
Go ahead, Chris.
Wendy just asked, is that case 21 CO2 as you stated, or 21 CO1?
What I just.
No,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Before Kirk's question.
Okay. So the information that I just, the response that I just gave to Kurt Franklin was with respect to 20 CO1 and 20 CO2. Both of those cases arise out of the same set of operative facts. the fact patterns are the same. The alleged violations are the same. And so when I say it's a violation potentially of conflict of interest and 4.04, that's what I was referring to. Wendy, does that answer your question?
I think she was asking about 21C01 because that's
Okay.
listed on the docket, but you stated 21C02, which isn't listed here.
There's no 21C02. I'm sorry for the confusion. There's only one case. It's filed in 2021, and that's 21C01.
Great.
And
okay.
that's the case.
Yeah,
that's
I think
the,
that was
yeah.
her
That's okay. Does that clarify
Yes.
the matter for you, Wendy?
I think so. She said no, not the. Yeah. Yes. She said, thanks, Chris. Yeah. So that was her question.
Okay,
So
Chris, is it yes or no?
Yes,
It's yes.
I think Wendy's all set. I hope.
Okay, great. All right, Kurt, back to you.
Thanks, Beverly. Any new
You're
business?
welcome. I have none.
Next meeting is May 17th, and we're adjourning at 12:46.
Great, good afternoon. Welcome to the LSP board meeting. I'm calling this meeting to order at 12:46 p.m. Any announcements that any of the board members wish to make or the public? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the agenda. Any additions, deletions, or other changes to draft agenda? I would like to add.
Go ahead, Millie. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead if you have an agenda.
I do.
Item.
I do. Under section 16, other business, I'd like to add the item of online fee payment.
Online fee payment?
Yes, online fee payment.
Okay, perfect. In addition to that, I also would like to add another agenda topic under item number 16, other business. And basically this agenda item, I'd like to add it for the purpose of discussing scheduling and administering a licensing exam this year. So any other changes or agenda items that any board member or public wish to add? So hearing none, this agenda will be adopted with the 2 added topics. Number 4, virtual draft meeting minutes. Thank you for providing that update, Beverly. I look forward to hearing from the Attorney General's office. We'd like to be able to at least be provided with those meeting minutes, even if there's no review and approval, at least being able to see what the track record has been for these discussions underway since June 2020. Next, we're going to talk about decisions regarding licensing of applicants. And specifically today, we'll talk about the need for a vote on renewal dockets, and we need to vote on 3 renewal dockets. That's been attached to the board agenda. So docket number 1 consists of 4 LSPs, and they've completed all the requirements for renewal by April 30, 2022. And their license will now have a new renewal date of April 30, 2025. I'd like to move to approve docket number 1. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussions or questions from the board or the public? So hearing none, please say yes when I call your name. Kirk,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Gail,
Sorry,
Gail?
yes,
Thank
yes.
you. Paul,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
and Millie is a yes. Motion carries. Docket number 2 consists of one LSP who's requested a 90-day extension from the renewal date of April 30, 2022. And his new renewal date would be July 28, 2022. Pardon me, 2022, yes. I'd like to move to approve this docket number 2. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions from the board or the public regarding this particular docket? If none, please say yes when I call your name, as per the roster. Kirk,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Millie is a yes. Motion carries. Finally, docket number 3, it consists of 3 LSPs and they've completed their requirements within the 90-day extension that was granted. They will now have a new renewal date. Their license will for January 30, 2025. I'd like to move to approve this docket number 3.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussions from the board members or the public? If none, please say yes when I call your name as per the roster. Kirk,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Craig,
Abstain.
Gail,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
and Millie is a yes. Motion carries to move forward with this docket. Item B, assignation of the application review panel. Beverly, if you could please proceed with requesting board member volunteers to support the ARPs noted here.
Okay. So there is one reapplication, Ms. Wassmer. The former panel consisted on the initial, Ms. Wassmer's initial application was Deb Listernick, Greg McBride, and Deb Smith. I'm sorry, James Smith.
I can be on.
So none of those people are here, but it doesn't matter. You'll get both the application and the reapplication. So volunteers, please.
I can assist.
David, also.
Yeah, and that was Paul. Was it Paul?
No, it wasn't me.
Craig?
It's Craig,
It
I
was
think.
Craig. I'm sorry, Craig. So Craig and David.
And I guess I can, since you need a non-LSP.
We do. We do. Thank you. All right. ARP 325 is all set. I'll send those files. Craig, David, and Gail, thank you for volunteering.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. Anything else on that item?
No.
Okay, great. All right, Beverly, so if you could please provide us with an update regarding other licensing matters.
Sure. As listed there, effective April 21st, there are 457 active LSPs and 2 inactive LSPs. I want to make sure to note that that number fluctuates, in particular because we have, and I'm just jumping ahead, we'll have to circle back for the petition for waiver, but there are 3 unpaid renewals for January of 2022. There are 7 unpaid renewals for April 2022. The April renewals, bear in mind, are not due until April 30th. So those folks have 4 more days until close of business on the 30th. There are 10 unpaid annual fees for 2022. And I want to do a little deeper dive into the unpaid fees for 2022, because as you recall, we had some issues with respect to payments. And I actually elevated the matter to EEA regarding the unpaid annual fees. And I got, sorry, I'm fishing for my documents, communication from the LSPA, because as you recall, we had a problem with the fee payments being correctly attributed to the various LSPs. And so some of them went out, letters went out to some LSPs saying that they hadn't paid, and they actually had in fact paid. And so I did respond to, I'm sorry, I did respond to Ms. Rundle's email. And again, we've elevated the matter to EEA to make sure that that doesn't happen again. I was told that it was a SharePoint issue. We switched over to a different platform, and so there's a revenue folder that the program coordinator looks into to see how many payments are made, and there was confusion about reconciling those. So hopefully this will never happen again. Barbara and I have been fielding questions from those LSPs who mistakenly received notices. They did forward checks. We've been getting back to them within 24 to 48 hours. Sometimes Barbara is able to, the program coordinator, Barbara Weiss, is able to get back to people within hours. So we've resolved that issue with respect to 2022 annual fee payments. I do want to raise another issue that came up with respect to annual fee payments. There was an LSP who made his or her annual fee payment, and the LSP's bank account was hacked. The specific check to the LSP board was altered in a way that allowed the person to steal $14,000 from this LSP bank account. $14,900, pardon me. The LSP's bank returned the money, but the problem we're still looking into, we believe, was with the bank that the board uses, which is the Bank of America. We're not sure, but the check was altered so that the amount was not $225, but $14,900. And the good thing about notices going out to people who had paid was that this caused this LSP to say, wait a minute, I paid that amount. And when the LSP contacted their bank, they found out that the bank account had been hacked. So we're looking into that to the extent that we can. Also on the agenda are unpaid fees from 2021. I know that the board voted to allow Ms. Oosting not to, her license was revoked, but she was permitted to not sit for the LSP exam. Now, the problem that has caused is with respect to fees, because Ms. Oosting paid some fees, but her license was revoked. So the status of those fees being paid is, I don't know whether we return the money. The other thing is, when the board made that vote to allow Ms. Oosting not to sit for the exam, there are currently 4 other LSPs who are similarly situated. Their licenses were revoked, and they have been impacted. So I need grounds for Ms. Oosting, because I do owe her a response about not sitting for the exam, and I wanted to know how the board's going to distinguish that from other licensees whose licenses have been revoked.
For the same reason.
For the same reason or any other reason, because there is one LSP whose license was revoked in 2022 for not renewing his or her license within 1 year.
Yeah, but Beverly, what I was talking about is you can't do that for, I mean, there are revocations for disciplinary purposes, and that certainly wouldn't apply to that situation.
I'm sorry, which situation?
If somebody's license is revoked for disciplinary reasons, that's not the situation we're talking about. If it's revoked for administrative reasons is what we're talking about.
I know, but the license being revoked for failure to renew within 1 year isn't a disciplinary matter.
No, Beverly, I understand that. The way you worded it, I just want to clarify, because you didn't specify that there was a distinction. I want to specify there's a distinction between revocation for disciplinary purposes and administrative purposes when we are discussing it.
Yes, I understand now. Thank you for the clarification. You're absolutely right. The 4 people whose licenses have been revoked are not for disciplinary reasons. They are for administrative reasons. Either the individuals fail to pay their LSP annual fee, or the LSPs fail to renew their license within 1 year as required by the regs. So they're all administrative. Yes.
So what information do you need for the one case so we don't have to rehash all 5 of them again?
I need to know why you made the decision that you did, because I have to state grounds, as you know, from every email that I send to any LSP regarding any denial of petition or revocation or suspension or any other matter. And you took if you recall, you took the vote by roll call, but you didn't articulate grounds for the vote.
I think
because they were.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Gail.
No, I was just going to say, I think part of our reason was because there were the whole question of things being up in the air because of COVID, and there was some question as to whether people got things. That's a very different situation in my mind than say I didn't renew because in time. That's different. I just didn't renew in time.
Yep. So that's the distinction. But the LSP, Ms. Oosting, whose license was revoked, and you indicated that she didn't have to sit for the exam, it was irrefutable that the notices were sent pursuant to the regulations.
So why doesn't someone go through the recording of the public meeting prior to the vote and summarize the reason that would be used in your correspondence?
And
That's
I agree
You
with
didn't,
David.
you didn't articulate a reason. I would have done that if I could have gone back. What I'm saying is that you made the vote by roll call.
I know.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that someone could summarize what the reasons were or thoughts were in support of it or denial of it. That's all. I'm not saying you're going to look for one person like myself or someone else who gave a reason why.
right.
That's all. Because
I agree. And in addition to that, for example, even within the rubric of administrative, we ended up speaking about with regard specific to those 4 LSPs. Some LSPs, for example, they didn't have the credits or purportedly had sent checks, but they were cashed later. So there was a wide variety of rationale underneath the rubric of administrative. So I also am in favor of going back to the recordings and not, take a chance right now on the spot to retell the story differently, but rather go back to our discussion, specific discussion to Ms. Oosting on that particular day so that we can stick to the words that we actually were recorded on that particular discussion.
I agree 100%.
All right.
That's what we need to do.
Okay. I will review the recordings for that particular meeting and report back at the May 17th meeting. Thank you. All set.
Thank you. So it sounds like we have covered items 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and that would bring us to item 12 if there's...
Can I just bring something up on 9 and 10?
Sure.
9 and 10? I don't think they're quarterly fee reports. I thought those were renewals. We don't have a quarterly fee.
Yeah, they are renewals.
Okay.
They are renewals.
Just wanted to clarify that.
I just call them renewal fee reports. I always call them quarterly fee reports. They are renewals.
Ms.
Yes,
Oosting
we need to backtrack to item 7, Millie.
Okay.
The petition for waiver.
Thank you. And it sounds like there's a comment, Chris, so if you want to...
Yeah, Ms. Oosting just said, so is my license reinstated? And that's for Ms. Oosting.
Yes.
And I think that was the vote that you guys did last month.
Yep. I don't know. I don't have an answer to that.
No, it had to be approved. She still had to do the reapplication, I believe, and then have that approved.
She did submit an application, and her reapplication was approved.
Then I guess that is all that needed to be done.
Yeah, well, there's
no. You have to send something. You would have to send something, Beverly. I would think.
Yeah, I always do. I always do, Gail, because Ms. Oosting's license was in fact revoked. So part of the regulation was implemented. But the other part, her not sitting for the exam, and also in limbo are the fees that Ms. Oosting paid. And whether or not during the time that her license was revoked, and we can revisit this after I've gone through the recordings and produced the segment to the board for its review as to grounds. But I do have to respond to Ms. Oosting. The board does have to figure out whether or not during the time that her license was revoked, she's entitled to a refund of fees because she wasn't licensed. So that'll be on the agenda for May 17th.
So yes, Ms. Oosting just said, I did the reapplication and it was approved. I am just waiting for seeing in writing that my license is reinstated.
Yes, I understand.
So that decision will be forthcoming by May. Just trying to put a timeline here on this particular matter with Ms. Husting. Okay, are we done with this particular discussion?
I think so.
Okay. So I have on the notes that the board has to discuss the situation with the fee, the check that Ms. Husting issued to the Commonwealth, and whether she's entitled to a refund. And
Ms. Husting just said, I would ask that my fee paid in 2021 be applied to 2022.
so that could be part of the conversation. It sounds like this is something we need to at least document, and that will be taken under advisement. Any discussion from the board members?
Nope.
Okay, thank you so much. So Beverly, if you could talk about the petition for waiver.
Well, Mr. Gibbons was invited to the meeting. He submitted on March 1st a document that you have before you. In short, the relevant facts are his license expired on January 30th, 2022. He did not ask for a 90-day extension until after his license expired, which the rules prohibit, which is why he filed a petition for waiver. In paragraph 4 of his March 1st letter to the board, he outlines good cause. And the board tabled the matter on March 8th so that it could review his submission in detail.
So the request is to approve the 90-day extension, essentially.
Yes.
Dave, that's how I took it to mean, but I'm glad you're raising it. So I think we should all discuss this petition through that same lens. So the request is for a 90-day extension.
Correct, and he gives a paragraph reason towards the end of the letter why the mistake was made.
Yes, at paragraph 4 of his March 1st letter.
Correct.
So any discussion from board members?
One question, would the 90-day window, would that be sort of retroactive from when it was supposed to be filed, or would it be from the date of, if it were to be approved? When's the 90-day window start and end?
Well, that's a good question. Is that Craig?
Yes.
Yep. Thank you, Craig. That was a good question because I don't know when the 90-day extension starts. Typically, you have 90 days from the date of the request, which would be approved by the board meeting, at the board meeting, rather. If you look at today's docket, for example, there was an approval of a 90-day extension. It has to be made before your license expires, and you're given 90 days from that date. So if you look at the docket, there was one, I believe, approved today.
Yeah.
And so you can track the date right there.
Okay.
Look, I'm talking specifically about renewal docket 2.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
So, but in this
So
case,
it
we got
would,
the information last month, correct? And the board requested additional time. So I would say that the 90-day extension would be from the time that we're making a decision, because otherwise
I agree.
the party loses 30 days already.
I would agree with that.
yeah, but he's asking, well, yes, but that gives him even more time. And that's
Correct,
not
but-
what that's not what the regulation, the 90-day extension is meant to do. It's meant to give you 90 days from the expiration date of your license. I understand that it wasn't heard until today, and that it wasn't submitted until March 1st, but it was due January 30th.
So the expiration date of his license.
That's a special dispensation that you're going to give this LSP for 90 days from January 30th plus now.
Well, the 90 days from January 30th would be in about another 4 days.
Right.
Yes,
Yep.
April 29th.
Yep. And so the LSP should have been looking, I mean, you know, honestly, the LSP should have been looking to fulfill this requirement during the entire petition process.
I don't think there's been any
And there's-
DEP courses available these last 3 months.
And that's not the board's fault, and that's not DEP's fault, because Mr.
I'm stating
the
fact,
LSP,
that's all.
because hold on, because the LSP had 3 years, and you also have to look at under petition 212 whether or not paragraph 4 is good cause stated, because in the past the board has not allowed for good cause to be illness of others. It's illness of the LSP, him or herself. And attention, and inattentiveness has also not been accepted as good cause. And I raise these issues not against this LSP personally, but with respect to parity and equity in terms of what you allow and what you don't.
I thank you for that, and that is correct, and I'm glad you clarified about the illness, because I know that an LSP who had a specific illness and provided medical records was treated differently than possibly this one, where it's the illness of someone else.
And again, I really want to stress that I am not anti-LSP. I am pro following the regulations to the letter, setting precedent, and treating every LSP, every single one who comes before the board with a legitimate complaint or a petition for concessions gets treated the same.
And we just can't be arbitrary. What will look like arbitrary and capricious if we change our basically our policy
standards, the standards,
right.
Yeah, the policy, yeah.
I'm in agreement with the reading and interpretation of the regulation, the standards. And my question is, why would we not have ruled just affirmatively last month, and we extended? We basically said we need more information. We need to study the information.
We received it late, just close to the meeting time, so there wasn't time to review
Exactly. So despite that, though, it doesn't change. I mean, my point here is whether it came in 1 minute early or 10 minutes late, the standard is a standard. So I think that could have been articulated at that point.
I don't think we had time to even read it, though, to be fair to the person to have read it.
Exactly.
I think that's right.
That's why it was not decided on and not discussed until this meeting.
That's right. It was tabled for just that reason, because the LSP had filed all of his or her attendance certification forms in addition to the letter and all of that. And the board, with good conscience, decided to take the time to review it fully.
Regardless of what the bottom line is we have to give everybody the benefit of reading what they've asked for to make sure that it's whether or not it's different from other circumstances that are certainly look similar and how we've proceeded in the past. We can't just, we gotta at least make sure we have a chance to read them.
I'm in total agreement with that. What I'm trying to say is that basically a resuscitation of the standard so that there was clarity at least. Never mind, we need to review the information that's presented in front of us, and that's why we asked for an extra month. But the fact that there is a process for 90-day extensions and it cannot be arbitrary and capricious, all that, I think, at least hopefully the LSP got to hear it today. That particular piece with regards to the interpretation of the standard.
Yes, Mr. Gibbons just typed, I would like to note to the board that there have been no DEP courses offered since June 2021, which was offered for only half credit. The last DEP credit course I did take was offered in February 2020.
Well, the good news for Mr. Gibbons is that there's an announcement and there is a DEP course coming up in Western Massachusetts. So that's one part of it. But again, LSPs are required within 3 years to earn 12 DEP credits. And I understand that the pandemic intervened, but almost all of over 450 LSPs managed to obtain their credits. We've had very few folks who said, actually, you can count on less than on one hand the number of LSPs who failed to meet that standard.
Or submit a 90-day request.
Or submit a 90-day request. Yes, David, that's correct. The board has already said that the pandemic is no reason not to have met the 12 credit regulatory standard.
One thing.
Absent good cause.
Yeah.
Mr. Gibbons. Mr. Gibbons just said, my understanding is the Western Mass DEP course is a repeat of a course I have already taken. I also, Wendy Rundle has a comment. So after the Mr. Gibbons discussion, I want to read her comment. I just wanted to make sure she knew that I was going to read her comment.
So can we at least then further discuss how the board members view this expression of basically the good cause aspect of the petition? If the answer is that pandemic is not a reason why LSP should have been proactive in looking for courses, I just think we need to at least resolve that part, because it's going to help understand how we're going to manage this incoming petition to the board for vote.
That's not the reason he gives. He gives the reason for taking care of elderly parents. He doesn't state it's because of the pandemic. There weren't enough classes to take.
What has the board done previously for, like, I guess, similar health type issues? Has that come up before?
As Beverly said,
Yeah.
we've done it for actual LSPs.
Okay.
In relative to themselves and being in a situation.
Mr. Gibbons just sent in, I believe there are only a small number of LSPs who are on the same renewal schedule that I am. So that may be why the board hasn't heard of others in the same situation.
Well, I can say that there are no less than 23 LSPs in any renewal period for each of the 4 quarters. January, April, October, and I'm missing one, but for each of the 4 quarters, there's no less than 23 people. And some quarters are as large as 43, approximately. My numbers may be off slightly, not by much.
Thank you. So do we have in front of us a vote with regards to approving or denying the request for a 90-day extension?
We don't have a motion yet.
I understand, but I want to make sure that it's crafted correctly. Is that what we're here to do today with regards to Mr. Gibbons?
It's Paul here. I just have one last question. So just to follow up on the sort of the precedent. So the board has considered other sort of, extension requests, but has consistently applied only an illness to the LSP themselves and not family members or other extraordinary circumstances. So it's just been solely limited, but the board has considered other cases where family members have been ill and sort of consistently applied that standard. Is that what I'm hearing?
Not that I recall, not for family members or significant others, only the actual LSP, but there could have been cases that I'm not aware of.
Okay.
That would consider, I don't know.
Mr. Gibbons just stated, I would be happy to answer any questions the board may have regarding the circumstances and the care I have been providing my father.
Yeah, things are ever changing. I don't think any of us have ever dealt with COVID before. I've been on the board for 20 years, and that's never come up. So it's an individual case by case.
And it's health issues with regard to themselves, not anybody else, correct, Kirk?
That's correct.
Yeah. I don't recall any where it was the illness of someone else that made a difference.
And that's correct. The most recent example of this was that we had an LSP who was very, very ill with cancer. And the board extended, and that person provided a lot of documentation regarding his or her cancer treatment. And the board did find extenuating circumstances and good cause for an extension. And I have to say that person earned the credit.
Can we,
yep. He or she was given the extension. I'm sorry, Millie, go ahead.
No, thank you. That's very helpful. Can we talk about the path forward if the request is denied? Is this LSP in limbo until he secures the credits and then needs to come back to the fold? I just want to at least have a clear pathway.
Yep. According to the regulations, the LSP has 1 year to obtain the necessary credits and come back into the fold. Until the LSP obtains the necessary credits, I think it's 1 DEP credit that Mr. Gibbons is lacking. Until he obtains that credit, his license remains lapsed.
So as much as I sympathize with having elderly parents and only having one DEP course available since last June, I make a motion to deny the petition.
Second.
Can I
Any
just
further
add can I
discussion?
just add something that might, it doesn't change anything, but I want to point out that if there are not any additional DEP credits before the next renewal time, we will have to take that up and deal with that then, because that could be a factor when there haven't been enough new DEP credits within people's renewal time when it's that long in between.
Mr. Gibbons just stated DEP has told me they are working on a course for DEP credit concerning the contained in rule. My hope is that they will offer that sometime in the next 90 days, so an extension would hopefully allow me to take that course.
But he can take that course anyway, and then his lapsed license would be able to be reinstated, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. Mr. Gibbons has 1 full year to obtain the necessary credit. And that's under, is it 3 point? I'm going to give you the exact citation because I will have to follow up in any event.
And it's 1 year from the time when his license expired?
It's 1
Yes.
year from January 30th, 2022, and that's under 3.065.
Okay. So do we have any further discussion before we take a vote on this motion?
Will we have to retake the test?
No.
No, it's just lapsed. It's just a lapsed license. So as soon as he fulfills the requirements, it gets reinstated automatically, I think, doesn't it, Beverly?
Exactly.
Well,
Yes.
it gets reinstated. We would reinstate it if all the paperwork looks good to us. That is,
Right.
if he has an attendance certification form and he just submits that to the board. Administratively, what we do is allow people to then begin to file documents with EDEP and so forth. But officially, it's not until after it's docketed, put on the board's agenda as a docket and approved by the board. But unofficially, we allow them to administratively perform LSP duties once we verify the attendance cert form.
Now, does the fee that he already paid for his renewal just get applied once he takes that one course?
Well, the check, we've already taken that check, Paul. We take those checks because what the regs require is that whether or not you have met the renewal requirements with respect to courses, you still have to pay. Even if you're requesting a 90-day extension, you still have to pay. And there's an additional fee when you come back into the fold.
Okay.
In the regs.
Mr. Gibbons just stated there have been no DEP credit courses offered that I have not taken since June of last year, and that was only for 0.5 credits.
You know, I'm really sorry about this because the pandemic has had, obviously, other than the most serious consequence of the death of our loved ones and others, the consequence of delaying things and postponing things and all of that. But again, I want to remind the board that over 400 LSPs or however many LSPs had to renew their licenses since 2020 have managed to do that.
Mr. Gibbons stated the last DEP course that I missed before then that would have allowed me to have the required number of credits was offered in September 2020, 18 months ago.
Okay, I'm sorry. Is Mr. Gibbons saying that he didn't take that course in 2020, or he did?
He said that's the last one he missed. That
Okay, so he did not take a course that was offered in 2020. Is that,
yes,
I'm asking Mr. Gibbons.
The last DEP course that I missed before then that would have allowed me to have the required number of credits was offered in September 2020, 18 months ago.
But it was offered.
Yes.
The underlying issue here still is the request for an extension in January. Not.
But what Mr. Gibbons' comment changes is that there was a course that was offered and he didn't take it.
Yeah, I don't want to speak firm. I presume that he did not take it because of the good cause discussions that or the rationale he expressed.
I don't think you're going to assume that, Melly.
I don't want to belittle this discussion, but can we have a vote and move on? Or is there really more stuff to talk about?
I think there's a motion and a second. I think we should just move forward with the vote. So Kirk?
No.
No, wait, can we go back to the motion again to make sure I say the right word?
Sure. So a motion has been put forth to deny the 90-day extension that was presented to the board in January.
Okay, I'm good, thanks.
So will a yes deny?
To deny the 90-day extension that was requested.
So yes denies. Yes. Correct.
Exactly. Yes denies the request. Correct. So Kirk?
No.
Patrick?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Kathy?
I'm a no.
And Millie is a yes. And I'd like to qualify my yes, which is based on my understanding with regards to there being no precedents associated with health issues, within a family member. So the motion carries and the request is denied.
I just want to piggyback on Gail's comment that this will be revisited if in a year from January, which would be January 30th, 2023, if Mr. Gibbons has not been able, if there were no courses offered within that year, we will revisit this petition. I think that's what Gail, I don't want to misquote you, so please.
Yeah, and no, I think that's very important, but I also think that if there are not sufficient DEP courses within a period of time, we're going to be revisiting this for any number of people if there's really that big a gap between DEP credits that are necessary. You know, if it really has been, we will have to relook at that for everybody in general, because we'll be hearing more about it during the next renewal period, I suspect.
I was going to echo the statements. It sounds like this is, I mean, Mr. Gibbons is pointing out there's a lack of DEP credits, and this, you know, won't be a unique situation moving forward if there aren't, you know, a substantial amount of DEP credits offered for LSPs to take. So
exactly.
Right.
Can this be proactive?
Go ahead, Pat. Go ahead, Patrick.
I was going to ask, can we be proactive in reaching out to DEP to identify this issue and urge the offering of courses?
Yes, we can do that. DEP, I'm sure DEP is doing all it can, but Mr. Gibbons, in fact, has been communicating with DEP, Nancy Fitzpatrick specifically, who is the coordinator replacing Susan Fessenden for BWSC. So I know that DEP is well aware that this is an issue, but this is always something that comes up. It has been, there have been years of LSPs not even prior to the pandemic obtaining the 12 DEP credits. Now we're going to rectify that issue by lowering the number of DEP credits required when we promulgate new regulations. But presently, it comes up very often, and the board has always said, over the course of 3 years, it's your responsibility to obtain the 12 credits. The issue has been exacerbated by the pandemic. But if the board wants, I'll absolutely reach out to BWSC if you want me to, and see where they are in terms of programming.
Yeah, that would be great, Beverly, if you don't mind doing that.
Not at all. I'll do that. Absolutely, I'll do that. And I do want to reiterate for those who are on the line and have not taken that course, that DEP is offering at the Western Mass LSPA meeting. It's coming up. So, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I will reach out to BWSC.
So here is Wendy's comment from a little while ago. Back to Ms. Oosting's license. Did the board confirm that her license has been reinstated? Yes or no? I am not sure what I heard. If yes, does this mean she can again use that credential and use EDEP, etc.?
I don't think the matter is settled. I think that I have to review the tapes and come back with a response to the board. I think that was my charge. So, no, it's not been reinstated, actually. We've got to find a mechanism to do that. This is a case of first impression. So to answer your question, Wendy, no. And to respond to Ms. Oosting's inquiry, no, we haven't settled the matter.
We also heard, and the board needs to figure out if she's entitled to a refund. And we also heard from Ms. Oosting that she asked for the money to be applied to the FY23. So those
I
are
don't know if we
that,
can even.
understood.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't even know if we can do how that would
understood.
happen. But
I just wanted to get as to what
even if it could be, wouldn't it have to be in writing? We can't do it based on a comment in a board meeting.
No, this is what I'm saying. You've got to review the evidence and come up with grounds. So I will do as the board asks and get the information from the recordings and report back, and the board can make a decision about the grounds, because I have to yet respond to Ms. Oosting's approval of her limited application and the grounds for the revocation and all of that.
Okay, switching back to Mass DEP courses. William Mitchell just commented, I sat on the education committee for years. Making Mass DEP courses are more challenging than before. Let's face it, Mass DEP continuing education is lacking these days and will continue.
And what, Chris, would you say that again, the last part of Mr. Mitchell's comment?
Let's face it, Mass DEP continuing education is lacking these days and will continue.
We don't know that. But I will report back at the May meeting on the status of Mass DEP's continuing education offerings. I mean, they could surprise us. They may have all kinds of things in the works.
I appreciate you doing that, Beverly.
Of course.
Okay, so I think that brings us to item number 12. I just want to make sure that that's where we are right now. April 13, 2022 examination committee report.
Yes. So the exam committee met on April 13th, 2022. Mr. Austin, Dr. Batchelder, Mr. McKinley, and Mr. Ellis participated. Also, an important member, Mr. Fitzgerald, John Fitzgerald. And so we reviewed all of the questions that we had that had not had a first level review. We are in stage 2, and we are reviewing currently questions that were tabled for awkwardness or some other tweak, that was needed. And so we're getting through those. The next step is hiring a vendor, a psychometrician. So I do have to look into what that bureaucratic process is and if it has changed since the last time we engaged, we contracted with a psychometrician. We did, as a committee, decide that if we could get the same psychometrician, Mr. Scott Thane, we would hire him if he's still available. I don't know whether or not he is, and if not, I'm open to suggestions for anyone or any of the continuing education providers who know of a psychometrician. I believe Dr. Batchelder is going to look into some folks that she knows who do this kind of work. Our next meeting is set for May 25th at 11 to 1, and you'll be sent an invitation. Anyone of the board members are welcome to participate, and you can join us for any part of that 11 to 1 o'clock meeting. People do drop in and drop out as their schedules permit. That's it.
Just as a comment for the continuing ed stuff, Beverly, I don't know if you heard, the testing software is all set on my state computer. So that was an issue
Yep, I know. I'm the one who elevated that.
Yes.
Remember?
Yeah.
Chris, you're too young to have that kind of memory lapse. Yes, we got it. We got it done. And for those members of the public and the board, Chris had an issue where he had loaded the exam software onto his personal computer. And so, of course, it's not supposed to be on his personal computer. It should be on his work laptop. And we were finally able to it was very complicated, but we were finally able to get that information taken off of his personal computer. So Chris is very relieved.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, board members, I just wanted to go back with regards to the vendor issue, hiring a vendor for the psychometrician. And I do know that the Board of Certification for Operators of Drinking Water Supply Facilities, they have a similar process by which they take exams. So I'm just expressing that because it's already within the Commonwealth rubric and germane to the work we do, that there might be some other vendors affiliated or associated with the work we do through other auspices. Just bringing that up in case when you have your meeting with Commissioner Suberg. you can express that he also is involved in this other process as well.
Well, actually, it would go through Yitling, and I can't think of Yitling's last name. I'm sorry for that. But yeah, we'd have to contract separately through the board. It's a separate contract with the board. It's not DEP. The LSP board is a separate agency, so I sign off on a separate contract. It is, the funding is within our budget. We are a line item on DEP's budget, but in terms of contracting, our vendors, our contracts are separate from those of Mass DEP. Is that what you were suggesting, Millie, or that we could use that person, or I don't know?
Yeah, what I was suggesting is that other boards that we are familiar with also contract with third-party private vendors. And so there might be some ideas there. That was really my suggestion, Beverly. I was not basically trying to tie this. That was just by way of example, how a board actually contracts with a vendor. And this is one example that has nothing to do with the LSP board, but is something that they also need to consider.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we have December 2021 LSP exam review.
Yes, so there is one person who failed to achieve a passing score on the LSP exam offered in December, and those reviews were scheduled, as you know, in March and February in Worcester, but I have gotten permission for this one last applicant to come in to the Boston office. So he or she is coming in on May 5th. So I don't know if there'll be challenges or anything like that, but that's the last December exam review. And that'll take place on May 5th in Boston.
Thank you. So moving on, Dave, if you could please provide the board with a continuing education committee report.
Sure, the committee met today. We got an update on the virtual draft meeting minutes. We're going to have a final decision on that next month. The website has been updated, listing all approved courses as of April this year. We approved 5 courses and 1 conference, and the next meeting is in May. Someone needs to make a motion to approve.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the recommendations from the Continuing Education Committee. Second. Do we have a second? Any discussion from the board or the public? And if none, let's proceed with the vote. Roll call, Kirk?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Gail? Yes. Paul?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Melissa, yes. Thank you. With regards to other business, I don't believe that there were any, but if you want to reiterate that.
Kurt, do you want me to give the report?
I'll give a summary.
Okay, great.
Started at 12:31. 18C01 CRT interviewed the LSP draft CRT report to be presented 6/22/22. 18C02 interviewed LSP. Delay is because of a question to revoke immediately. They decided not to do that. 20C01 violations under 4.03, 4.04. LSP has been interviewed. Witnesses have been interviewed by Beverly. Statements given and responses to questions. Gail and Greg are going to be brought on to those two. 21C01, master file needs to be redacted, sent to LSP, and we expect a response by May 16th, 2022. Adjourned
Excellent.
12:46.
Excellent.
No vote
Thank you.
needed.
Thank you, Kurt.
Thank you.
Other business, Beverly, if you could provide us with a report back on items A, B, C, and D. And then you included or you requested to add online fee payment. That would be item 16E. And I requested that scheduling and administering a license exam within 2022 be added as item F.
Okay, so the regulations under 16A, the date did not change on this iteration that was included in the packet simply because we did not go over the changes that I put in on March 8th. There are several highlighted sections, and these are the policies for those of you who had questions about the regs not promulgated, but a protocol that the board members established for online courses and webinars, and that's depicted at 309 sections 7 and 8. There's also section 9 that's highlighted. So I'm asking for your comments, questions. Also, Kathy Campbell submitted some questions, and those are included. Comments and questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the board members or the public? Thank you, Beverly. I guess we can move forward with personnel, budget, and fees.
Okay, so if there's nothing here, you're saying that you approve section 3.09 is done. Is that right?
I was absent from that discussion, but looking for discussion.
No, I'm asking
members
now. Yeah, I'm asking now.
Yep, correct.
Okay. Nothing further. We'll attack the next section, and I'll see what's left to be done. So I'm adding 3.09 as preliminarily approved. We'll have another chance to review it. Thank you.
Yeah, Beverly, I have some comments also to add. I can just send them to you, mostly typo related things, and a couple of comments.
Okay, send those to me, and then it's not done. So, Gail, I'll await your comment.
Yeah, I'll send them as soon as we're done here.
Oh, thank you. All right, and we'll review those for the May meeting, May 17th, 2022. Thank you. All set. And so personnel, budget, and fees, and the trip request, I'm going to lump these two together. With respect to, I'll go from the micro to the macro. With respect to the budget, I'm looking for a psychometrician. That money is within the LSP budget. I believe there's approximately $5,000 to $8,000. I'm not sure. I'm sorry, I don't have it right in front of me for the psychometrician. And so we're going to tap into those. Personnel and the trip request. I have elevated these matters to EEA. They're no longer with DEP. So the board's trip request was sent to EEA, and I'm working through them. With respect to the trip request, within a couple of weeks of the matter being elevated, there may be someone who's interested in a short-term trip with the board. And so I'm working on that. contemporaneously, I'm working with EEA to get the postings up for program coordinator, general counsel, and a full-time continuing ed coordinator / investigator. So that should be done this week. We may be able to get them posted this week. So those two things are going on contemporaneously. Any questions, any discussion? If not, I'll move on to the public records request from Salem News.
Yes, go ahead.
Hearing none, we have had a public records request. I turned it into a public records request. It started off as an inquiry through the press office of Mass DEP, and it was forwarded to me. The reporter from Salem News was looking for the names and numbers of disciplinary cases from 2013 through 2022. And so it's on the agenda so that I can, of course, keep you apprised, but I provided numbers to the reporter. So in 2013, there were 3 disciplinary matters filed. These are cases filed. In 2014, there was 1. In 2015, there were none. 2016, there were 3. 2017, there were 5. 2018, there were 3. 2019, there were none. In 2020, there were, 2020, there were 4. In 2021, there was 1. And in 2022, there have been 0. Now, the reporter has also asked about disclosing the names of the LSPs involved in these disciplinary matters. And so I have added it to the agenda because the matters under investigation, the board doesn't disclose the names, and I've informed the reporter that there are 9 cases which are the pending cases before the professional conduct committee, but there remains the issue of whether or not we can disclose names of the LSPs who were disciplined. Now, that ranges because there's been 1 settlement, a number of dismissals for fee disputes and that sort of thing. There's been 1 private censure. So I don't know, and the matter of 05C is public record simply because there's been a lawsuit filed in Superior Court, an appeal. So I don't know how the board wants me to handle this news media request with respect to disclosing folks' names, individual LSPs' names.
We have the history is that first of all, private censure doesn't get disclosed. That's the whole point, is it's private.
Right.
And the dismissals aren't decided, so they shouldn't be, I don't think they should be disclosed because they may or may not have been legitimate. We didn't even investigate them. The only thing that the board has disclosed in the past are the ones that we send out press releases for every disciplinary decision.
Right. And I actually wanted to ask, with regards to those press releases, were names included in those press releases, if you can recall?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And they go to the newspapers that are in the relevant jurisdictions of the sites themselves, as well as the home address or whatever, or business address, whatever is given for the LSP.
Mm-hmm.
So press releases in the past, there's been one that was filed, one press release, I believe, in 2014. And that press release disclosed the LSP's name. It was sent to the Globe and the Herald, and I'm making this part up, but to piggyback onto Gail's comments, if the LSP was located in Cambridge, the press release was also sent to the Cambridge Chronicle, local papers such as that. So the Lowell Sun, wherever the LSP's principal place of business was, or his or her firm's principal place of business was, we try and hit that direct geographic location.
Right. But Beverly,
So,
my understanding is that it isn't through our office, it's through the press release office. The press release folks send it out.
but I prepare the press releases.
Right.
I approve the press releases.
Well,
and
actually,
I
the board, the
hand them.
CRTs are supposed to review or the board is supposed to review press releases too.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm glad you're asking the question, because this is new for me also. So process-wise, I think the board is the board, and the board has to review these press releases.
They have in the past.
They have in the past.
Yes.
Go ahead, Gail. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say the board has always reviewed press releases.
Can you restate I'm sorry, can you restate the question that you have for the board relative to the request from Salem News?
Yeah.
So we can just answer
Yep.
it?
I will. I'm going to let me respond to Millie first of all. The board does review press releases, Millie. It always has. And so the one press release that was sent out in, I believe, 2014 that I'm specifically talking about was reviewed by the board before it went out.
Thank you.
Yes, if there's a press release before it goes to, because we don't have our own press office, obviously, but we handle the inquiries.
Yes.
It's approved by the board before it goes to Mass DEP. So, David, to answer of course. So, David, to answer your question about the reporter's question, the reporter wants names of specific LSPs that were disciplined. In looking at the record, we are agreed that pending litigation, those 9 cases we're not disclosing those cases because they're under investigation. And with respect to the past, there's been 1 suspension, and there's been 1 press release in 2014. There may have been a second press release. I'm not sure. There was an LSP who was arrested and convicted of a crime in New Hampshire. And so that may be a second press release. I'm not sure. I'll have to check. And that person's name was disclosed. So private censures are not to be disclosed, and dismissals are not disclosed. The names of LSPs against whom complaints were filed and the complaint was dismissed because it was a fee dispute or for some other reason, those names are not disclosed because the case was not tried on the merits. There was no full administrative hearing or finding of no wrongdoing. So I think you've answered my question. Private censures are private for a reason. So the names of those LSPs wouldn't be disclosed.
Yeah, I agree with the rationale, and I'm wondering if anybody else from the board has any other comments, and how do we move? Basically, I think you should move forward with managing the press request from this reporter accordingly. Okay. I mean, in this case, it sounds like it's just providing the press release that was issued back in 2014. I mean, I don't, sounds like there's nothing else there unless there's a second press release that you were going to look into.
Well, we've had one suspension, one LSP whose license was suspended, and that's in 05C07. And so I can disclose that because it's the subject of a superior court matter, and that's public. And there was another case in 2011 that was settled by agreement of the parties. And so I have a question about whether or not I can disclose that LSP's name.
Beverly, we have in the past, it should have had a press release because it was a settlement agreement, but it was an action on a license, and there should have been a press release associated with it.
Okay.
Does that fall outside of the time frame that they were requesting? Did you say 2014?
No. Well, they asked, the reporter asked for 2013 through 2022. So the one settlement agreement was settled. It was a case that arose in 2011, but it was settled, I believe, in 2017 or so. So the settlement should be disclosed. The name of that LSP should be disclosed.
And apparently we didn't send out a press release on it.
No.
It doesn't sound like it.
No, I don't believe there was, but obviously if there's a press release, this reporter is absolutely entitled to it. That gives me
it doesn't matter. He's entitled to it because it's a settled matter.
Yep. I agree. That gives me some guidance. Are there any other questions or comments about how I can respond to this reporter? I've given him a lot of documents and a lot of information already, but this is the last piece of it.
So just to clarify, the one that didn't have a press release, is that name going to be provided, or that doesn't meet the requirements of having previously there had been a press release?
Whether or not there was a previous press release doesn't have anything to do with it, other than it's automatic that he gets anything that any other reporter received. What matters is whether or not the discipline was public or private. And so the settlement agreement is a public document. So that's why I can disclose that LSP's information, name. They've asked, the reporter asked for the name.
Any other comments, questions? I think you've got a good path forward, Beverly, for managing this incoming press request. Okay, so online fee payment?
Yes, online fee payment. I'm sorry, give me 1 second.
Sure.
To pull that document. So I met with, I'm stalling, you can tell. I met with so sorry. Okay, forgive me. I met with Victoria Phillips, who's in charge of this operation on March 30th, 2022, about online fee payments. Yay. And the good news is that we may be able to have online fee payments in place by the fall. I'm going to start meeting with Ms. Phillips in June and July to start meetings about how the system would work, but we didn't want to overpromise. So there is a system that would permit renewals, exam fees, and application fees to be paid online. There is an issue with the largest component of fee payments, the annual fee payments, which encompasses obviously all 457 some odd LSPs, and we may not be able to do that because we may not be able to get it into the Acela system. So I'm working on it. But if we could just get the renewals in place, the exam and application fees in place, that would be a big deal. And then going forward, it's my hope that we'll be able to have these online fees for annual fee payments as well.
That's wonderful news.
I know, I said yay. Nobody said yay back, but but if we can do that, guys, this would be such a monumental forward step. It's been in place for permitting for years, and I've been asking for years, and it would eliminate a lot of this business, in particular the poor LSP whose bank account was hacked for $14,900. The other LSPs with whom I sympathize, who were notified that their annual fees hadn't been paid. I'd really just like to obviate that it's an administrative morass trying to keep up with these fees, because it's a combination of the Bank of America, it's EEA, it's the Mass DEP Department of Revenue, it's Barbara Weiss as program coordinator working on all of this, and there are just too many irons in the fire to keep up with. So if I can get this done and in place by the fall, it would be great. So I'm working on it.
So I just want to say thank you so much, Beverly. And for those who don't know, Victoria Phillips, she's the director of the Enterprise Information Office at Mass DEP. She's been responsible for directing a lot of the enterprise and mechanisms to get many of our programs at DEP onto an online e-permitting process. And she's really easy to work with, very capable and motivated. So I'm sure that she will give her full attention. So thank you so much for facilitating this, Beverly. I really appreciate it. And I want to join in I too will say yay. I think this is great. Terrific. So we're moving into 16F. And this is just an item that I wanted to schedule, and it's really comes from just as a practical matter, just seeing what's happening in the practice and just overall in the environmental sector with a lot of staff retiring, LSPs retiring, and we have this wave that's taking place. And therefore, in looking at just the regulations as per 3.04 exam, the frequency and schedule, we really are mindful of making sure that we adhere to the standards and regulations as close as we can, and really just adhere to them, period. And therefore, I wanted to tie this in because here we are in April, and I just want to make sure that at least we start the conversation for long range or short range planning with regards to administering a licensing exam. And it's basically, we have to do this at least once a year. So I wanted to bring this up, open up the conversation for discussion. I know that there are many embers in the fire right now, but I just don't want to be remiss with regards to not being able to at least start the conversation on this very important topic.
Yeah,
So-
can I ask Beverly, how many people we have that would be ready for an exam in, let's say, June or July-ish timeframe?
There are 2 people who may or may not be approved today. So I think there are approximately 6 others in queue who have 2 years of eligibility. So there potentially could be 8 or more if we receive any further applications between now and the next time the exam is offered. So ballpark, there are maybe 8 people who are eligible now to sit for the exam.
So we
7
have
or 8.
enough people to justify doing it in the June, July timeframe, as opposed to waiting
Yep.
until November. Okay.
Well, yes, but the exam only has to be offered once a year, and I'll make sure that it happens before December 9th.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, questions? And thank you for asking that question, Gail. That was really important.
I mean, it also depends on when the office moves and when the office is reopened. As you know, I've been traveling to Zero for 2 years to offer the exam, and it's a real hardship for me personally, not to mention I have no staff to sit in the room. So I'm proctoring a 7.5-hour exam by myself all day.
Okay. If you need assistance, let anyone know. I'm sure I'll be the first one to say I'd be more than happy to support the proctoring if needed.
Yeah, it has to be done by staff. But thank you for offering. And so we're working on it, but there's a lot that goes into it. So it will happen. It will happen in 2022. But you know, I'm working with EEA on everything. In fact, the board is now under the supervision of EEA, as it should have been, because we're under the umbrella of EEA. So I have a bigger pool of resources now. So we'll see what happens.
Wendy Rundle just posted the LSPA encourages the LSP board to offer the exam this June. The delay for potential LSPs is also a hardship.
Yeah, thank you.
I understand.
Appreciate that.
I understand.
Okay, so the future virtual meeting will take place on May 17th, 2022. I look forward to seeing everyone then. And this board meeting is therefore adjourned at 2:23, and we will be entering executive session following this meeting.
You have to state the cause, Millie, that we're adjourning and reconvening. It has to be one of the 10 enumerated. Yep.
Yeah, you all should have gotten an invite to the executive session meeting in your email.
Yes, so we are going to be adjourning this meeting, and we'd like to enter into executive session following this particular meeting.
Yes.
Which means we will sign off and come back using Chris's invitation.
Do we have to vote to get out?
Do we have to vote do we have to vote to go into executive session?
Yeah, it's to end
Yes.
and to go into.
To adjourn, you have to roll call the vote to adjourn and then to reconvene in executive session to discuss one of the 10 enumerated exceptions to public meetings.
I'm going to take a roll call to close this meeting and then take another roll call to open up the executive session.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Dave? David? Not sure. David is on?
Looks like David is not on.
Okay. Kathy?
Yes.
Millie is a yes. So we have effectively closed out this board meeting, and I'd like to place a motion for us to meet under executive session. Second?
Second.
Do a roll call. Kirk?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Dave? Not here. Kathy?
Yes.
And Millie is a yes. Motion carries. We'll see each other at the executive session.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.